Hi, I'm Steve Williams, and this is Scooter and the Sticks. Today I'm going to talk about my Vespa GTS scooter and give you a long-term review. I've had it for almost 15 years, and I've been putting a lot of miles on it. Right now it has a little over 43,000 miles. So let's go for a ride, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I've discovered. I put high test in here, so we'll see how much that costs. Almost $5 a gallon. Holy shit. We're rolling. Another ride on the Vespa. It's a nice day. Cold. About 32, 33 degrees. But it's sunny out, so it feels warm. I want to talk about the performance of the Vespa. I know a lot of motorcycle riders look down their nose, either seriously or facetiously, at scooters as they're second-rate or just glorified toys. But this Vespa GTS is not a toy, and it performs very well in almost all conditions. Its acceleration is quick. I've often beat motorcycles off the line and can stay ahead up to about 35-40 miles an hour unless someone's really got a souped up motorcycle. But that CVS belt drive transmission is just very fast. The top speed on this Vespa is around 75 on the flat with no wind. A little faster if I tuck down. But I've ridden on interstate highways for hours at 70 miles an hour, and that's fine. It corners very well. It's a very nimble machine. The 12-inch wheels are very unsettling to some motorcycle riders the first time they get on there, because they're so responsive, so quick. I mean, you touch the thing and it will just dart around anywhere you want. I really like that, and it's something I miss on motorcycles, but I've spent most of my riding career on a scooter like this, so you get used to whatever you're riding. The brakes are exceptional in my opinion. This thing stops very quickly, and it's never let me down, and the brakes feel as good or better than my BMW K75, and they're certainly stronger in sudden stopping power than the Royal Enfield Himalayan. Now both those motorcycles, the brakes are fine. It's just you get a feeling that these things will stop on a dime. Comfort of this motorcycle is exceptional as well. I've ridden many sort of luxurious motorcycles, the BMW RT 1200s, the BMW GTL 1600, cruiser bikes, and this is by far the most comfortable ride I've had the pleasure to take. I have no qualms about the performance of this machine, and the gas mileage, while some people claim a lot more, mine is consistently in the 60 to 65 miles per gallon range in the way I ride. So all around, this is a fine scooter, motorcycle, and for any kind of riding I can do in Pennsylvania, with the exception of off-road riding, and we'll talk more about that later, and through deep water. This scooter will go anywhere and do anything that a motorcycle would go, and I've ridden with others. One time I was riding a few hours to the east here, and I came upon a group of Harley riders ahead of me, and I was riding faster than them. When they saw me, they sped up because they didn't like me seeming as if I was part of their group. And because I'm a very polite gentleman, I sped up and remained part of their group, and they kept going faster until they got up almost to 75 miles an hour on a 45 mile an hour road, and they decided to pull off into a parking lot rather than try to lose me. But this thing really can go. It'll do whatever you need to do, and there's certainly men and women riding these Vespa GTS cross country all the time. Any limitation that I've heard expressed largely is in people's heads. They're not based in reality. The only thing I would say is if you wanted to ride from Pennsylvania to California on Interstate 80, I wouldn't take this scooter. I mean, even though you could ride on the interstate all the way across, because of the lightweight and the small tires and getting beat around for days on end, I wouldn't choose to do that. Mechanically it could do it, but my comfort would intervene. Let me share a few thoughts on service and reliability as it relates to this Vespa. I have 43,000 miles and change on this scooter, and the only things that have ever failed that left me stranded was at about 20,000 miles the fuel pump died, and when they pulled it out, it was really crudded up with grime and dirt, which I attribute to how much riding in dirt and gravel I was doing. I'm not sure if that's why, but so that was replaced, and it's been running fine now for 20,000 more miles. There's a fused link in the wiring harness inside the engine compartment that melted through, and I'm not sure why. I got on the Modern Vespa forum. I was stuck alongside the road, and I posted from my phone what had happened, and someone said, check the fuse link, and sure enough, it was burned through. So rather than replace the wiring harness, I removed the link, soldered all the wires together, and now there's no fuse link there, and it's been working fine ever since. The only other thing that happened, which was stupidity on my part, was the end of the spark plug wire twists onto the wire, and it came loose, and I looked and I saw that the wire was detached from the end, and I thought, oh man, it burned off. Well, if I was smarter and knew something, I would know you just put the end on there and twist it, and it will reconnect. But I called for a rollback truck and hauled my scooter home. So that was the lesson. Other than that, the only things I've had to do to this scooter were routine maintenance: tires, brakes, oil changes, belt changes, things like that. I've changed the shocks on this at around 30,000 miles, and I'm not sure why, because it didn't feel any different after the new rear shocks. The front shock's still original, but I had been reading people saying, oh, at 5,000 miles the shocks are done, and I can tell you I've beat this Vespa hard in all kinds of conditions, and it rides as nicely now as it did when I bought it. The only thing that I do to this scooter that makes it suddenly feel different are new tires. Put new tires on this and I swear it's a different machine. But and one other thing I should point out, the valves have never been checked and they've never been adjusted. And on the service stuff it says they need to be checked and serviced, but I've talked to several Vespa technicians over the years that say pretty much the same thing. Is it running all right? I said, yeah. They said, then forget about it. And so I was more than happy to save the money, and I haven't done anything, so who knows. The other thing I've had to take care of is, because I ride through the winter in a lot of salt and grime, especially when I was commuting to work, and I would not wash off the scooter. It would go months covered with salt and grime. The muffler just gets chewed up and rusty. So every spring, when I would do the spring cleaning on the bike, I would take the muffler off and clean it up and repaint it with matte black grill paint, and I was good for another year. And after about 10 years the muffler started to rust through, and I bought a new one on eBay, or like new. Someone had bought a new scooter and immediately put a loud exhaust on their scooter, and I bought it for $65, and I've been running it ever since. It's been reliable. I know people that have had trouble, and there's certainly any machine you can have failures or things that aren't set up right, and depending who your mechanic is, your technician, they might not find it, and it can be really frustrating. But I've been fortunate with this scooter, and I'm really happy with its reliability, especially considering how rough I've been with it, especially with the off-road stuff that really just bangs the heck out of it. So let's talk a little bit about modifications I've made to this, and I'll show them in a bit. I don't do many modifications to things I buy. I tend to use them the way they're delivered, and unless there's some compelling reason, I don't change anything. So let's take a look at some of the modifications I've made on this scooter. Starting from the front, I put a front rack, and I've used this camping to put sleeping bags and tents. I've also hauled watermelons and baguettes on that. I've put a small windscreen, and this keeps the wind off my chest. It's not great, but it works. I have some Tucano or Bono muffs on the hand grips, and they are useful in the winter time. I put this little rack down here thinking I might attach cargo or a gas can or something there, but I've never used it for that. I did like the way it looked. And the only other modification I've made that you can easily see is this Givy, I think it's an E370 top case on the back. That's really handy. I also have heated grips, but I haven't, you can't see them because of the muffs. Trust me, they're there and they're nice. The control for the heated grips is right here. They've got 5 settings and they're really nice. But that's all. I didn't change the exhaust like so many people did. I didn't do any engine enhancements. It's allowed me to explore much of the central part of Pennsylvania over the years, and it's an excellent vehicle to do that. I'm just have so many good memories of riding this scooter, and it's so easy to stop and start and get on and off of, and I shoot so many pictures that I really appreciate that. And even a recent ride on the Royal Enfield Himalayan reminded me of how much fussier it is to get on and off a motorcycle. Like on this road here, I can just stop right here, put the scooter on the center stand in a second, and leave it there. And I don't have to worry about it being out in the middle of traffic where the motorcycle's leaning over. And that's something that I really appreciate. And you know, it's just so narrow compared to a lot of motorcycles. But anyway, just thinking about all the riding I've done, camping and things, probably what people ask me the most about is winter riding. Now it's winter now, it's near the freezing point, but the road is dry. The real trick in my mind to use a scooter like this in winter is to be aware that you have less traction because the road's colder. The rubber compounds in the tires are designed for warm weather, not cold weather. So unless you invest in winter tires, and they do make them, and I ran winter tires for a long time, and they do make a difference, you have to be careful with the throttle, leaning, all that stuff. You just have to go slower, even on days like this, because you can come around one of these blind turns and some bozo could dump a cup of coffee off the other car and it's frozen. There's water, so it must be above freezing now. The other thing is, I've ridden this a lot on dirt and gravel mountain roads around here, and while it's possible to do that with these little tires, little street tires, you have to go really slow in comparison, and you get a feel for it eventually, but it's more work, and the suspension isn't designed for the kind of battering you can take, especially when there are washboard areas. And I've really beat this scooter up riding like that. Over the years, I've heard a lot of discussion about how fast will this go? Can I ride on the freeway? And while I'm thinking, you wouldn't buy this to ride on the freeway, or you wouldn't buy it to commute if your commute is on the freeway, it certainly is possible. So I figured I might as well show you that you can ride on the expressway if you want. And the scooter's quick enough to keep up with traffic. Any legal speed limit in Pennsylvania, the fastest speed limit is 70 miles an hour, I think, now. And the scooter certainly will handle that. Now today is a really windy day. I'm riding into a headwind, and I'm going 65 miles an hour now, and the speed limit's 55. Now I'm at 70, and you can see the traffic is still moving away from me at 70. Throttle is wide open now, and I've ridden like this for long periods of time on expressways because I had to get home by a certain time, or for some reason I needed to get somewhere quicker. But certainly is not my preference on the way to ride. So this is how to end a ride. Hot tea, croissant, And that's it for this episode of Scooter and the Sticks. I'm Steve Williams. As always, be well, ride safe.